Hey friends, welcome to this episode of Bougie Texas Barbecue. Today we're going to be making some Brisket Esquites, also known as Brisket Elote. It is the perfect summer recipe, so I hope y'all are excited because I definitely am, so let's do it. Okay friends, so the first thing we're going to need to do is prep our brisket for smoking. I'm doing things a little bit different and I'm actually going to remove the point from the flat. I'm doing this for two reasons. First reason, texture-wise. The brisket flat is a little bit more firm, so it will pair very well with the elote, and I can use the point for another recipe. Second reason, it's going to cut my cook time by a little bit. Normally my briskets can range anywhere from 9 to 10 hours depending on my start cooking temperature, versus just smoking the brisket flat, it will take closer to 7 hours. And that's just because we're also going to be smoking it at a low temperature to prevent drying it out. But for me, 7 hours sounds a lot better than 9 hours. I'm going to finish removing this point, but if you've never removed the point off a brisket before, you can basically use the fat cap as a guide and just guide your knife through the brisket and remove as much as you can. When removing the point, it doesn't have to be a perfect cut, especially if you haven't done it before. Just use the fat cap as your guide and you will get majority of the point cut off, especially if you're going to use it for a different cook. Also, most of y'all have probably noticed that my brisket is looking a little stiff. There is definitely a reasoning behind it. So trimming a brisket is so much easier when it's partially frozen. And I don't mean like partially frozen within the meat, just the fat cap. Brisket fat can be a little tricky, especially when you're trying to trim it and shape it. So having it partially frozen definitely helps shape out your brisket. Just a little pro tip. I'm setting my brisket fat to the side because once this brisket is on the smoker, I am going to render out the brisket fat into beef tallow. So when this brisket is ready to be wrapped, I will be adding that fresh beef tallow within the wrap to keep moisture. Now, the last thing I want to discuss before we throw the brisket on the smoker is seasonings. So I'm going to make a Mexican style brisket to complement the elote. So I'm going to use hot sauce as a binder and I'm going to use a Mexican barbecue rub. If you don't have a Tex-Mex rub or don't want to use a Mexican barbecue rub, you can just keep it traditional SPG with a hot sauce binder. Okay, now let's talk about the fuel we're using today. Mesquite wood chunks and charcoal briquettes. The mesquite wood is going to help give us that Tex-Mex flavor that we're looking for during this cook. I decided to use OKJ Bronco and here's why. The Bronco allows me to add as much fuel as I need for this cook without constant refueling, which is great because it regulates temperatures throughout the cook. So if you're a first timer and you're having trouble regulating your temperatures and struggling to manage a clean fire, the Bronco is for you. Load it, start it, and it pretty much does the work for you, which will ultimately result in a great brisket flat. Now, I smoked my brisket at 200 degrees for 4 hours before spritzing. The bark definitely needed some moisture, so that's what I'm adding. I used a simple solution of a 1-to-1 ratio of water to that W sauce. And I'm going to keep spritzing and smoking at 200 degrees until I get a darker bark. Now, normally I don't wrap my briskets until they're ready to be rested, but because it is a brisket flat and I don't want to dry it out, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it once I like the bark. I also added a wireless probe so I can monitor the internal temperature because I don't want to be constantly poking at it once it's wrapped. Don't want to lose any moisture. So I'm going to throw it back onto the smoker and smoke it at 250 degrees now until it reaches an internal temp of anywhere between 203 and 205. Then I'm going to allow it to rest for a couple hours before slicing. My brisket is officially done resting and now it's time for the best part. It is time to slice. And it not only looks incredible, but it smells amazing. Okay, now we're just gonna get straight into slicing and it feels so good when my knife went through. And it got a beautiful smoke ring and it's definitely on the juicy side. This is exactly how I wanted my flat to come out. Before I actually chop the brisket up for the esquites, I want to get a couple slices in so y'all can see how rendered it came out. When it comes to texture, this is exactly how you want. When it comes to smoking a brisket, whether it's just a flat or the entire thing, this is the exact texture you're looking for your end results. And that wraps up the brisket cook. Now all you have to do is pretty much chop the brisket up into bite-sized pieces to add on top of our elote. And you definitely don't need a cleaver knife because the brisket is definitely soft and rendered. I just wanted to give the brisket that clean cut look. Now it's time to prepare our elote. Add chili powder along with some mayo. Next, you're going to want to add some lime and cilantro, a handful of Cotija cheese, and then you're going to give it a good mix. Don't worry, my full ingredient list will be down below in the description. When it comes to garnishing, you can pretty much garnish as you please, but I like to give it a twist and add some hot Cheeto dust. Just don't forget the brisket. That pretty much wraps up this video, guys. Check out the full ingredient list and recipe down below in the description. Till next time, guys, enjoy.